You know when you send your child to your friend's house and you say, you know what, make sure you behave well. I really worked hard and I raised you well. And show them the best character. This is what Allah wants you to see. Every time you come to the masjid, not because of this lecture only. Every time, don't take it casual. Wallahi, Allah will take it away. This ni'mah, this blessing, this beauty. So always remember this. Whatever you do outside, when you come in here, switch it off. And look at it in this way. So Jazakum Allahu khair. See, once you moved your heart, all of you are quiet. This is what you always have to do. Keep connecting with Allah. Yes, we are talking about menstruation, but this is His deen. Keep your heart connected with Allah, and that's what we're going to all talk about tomorrow, inshallah. Once your heart, and as your heart is connected with Allah, you're a different person in everything. So let's go ahead and get started. Please forgive us. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I always believe, and this is something I was just reading today in the plane, and I loved it. And I wrote this in my right hand. I mean, in my handwriting. But when I was reading it, as if it's the first time. And he says, the heart that's connected with Allah, and I'm going to share with you tomorrow, inshallah. The heart that is connected with Allah, believe in the following. Everything come from Allah is khair. كل ما يأتي من الله خير. And Allah لا يأتي إلا بخير. Allah does not send anything but good. And look at this. How many of you and me always wished we can come to the musalla? Right? Can I just come one time and sit and see what does the men see? Don't you have that feeling? Right? It's beautiful, it's big. Let me see where is the Imam stand? And Allah just gave it to you. We didn't even ask for it. And I love it when Allah gives us things. We don't even ask for it. So again, show Allah the best from you. Questions, will take it, but don't ask till I finish. I have about this course that I'm going to share with you. We did it over almost 7 weeks. So there was about 14, 15 hours. So I don't know, I was doing it last night again and again and again. I made it, I think, 50 slides. So be patient, be with us, turn to Allah to teach you. And then once you have questions, write it down, and I'll do my best to answer. If your questions were not answered for time reasons, then you are more than welcome to email us. I get one of the most common emails or questions I get is about this subject. So let's start quickly. This is our beautiful Amina, may Allah reward her. And do you want to do that? Okay, we'll do the video at the end. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, so are we ready for the slides? Okay. So Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana innaka sami'un mujibud du'a. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min 'ilmin la yanfa' wa qalbin la yakhsha wa nafsin la tashba' wa du'a'in la yusma'. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ameen. I put this du'a for a reason. Because we have a few problems. We have a lot of problems, but let's say the few ones for the night. We don't learn. Learning is not our priority, especially women. And then when we learn, is it the beneficial knowledge or just because? And third, when I learn the beneficial knowledge, do I benefit from it? And that's the scary part. So when Allah teach me something, anything He teaches me, whether in dunya, something related to this world, or something related to the akhirah, do I make a benefit of it for me in this life and for the akhirah? So this is actually a dua that is taken from a hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. And he used to say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-arba'a. Ya Allah, I seek refuge in you from 4 things. Ilmun la yanfa', knowledge that's not beneficial. Wa qalbun la yakhsha', heart that does not surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعَيْنٌ لَا تَدْمَعْ or قَلْبٌ لَا يَخْشَعْ, and a heart that does not surrender to Allah. And the last one, وَدُعَاءٍ لَا يُسْمَعُ. That you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for supplication and you don't get the answer. And that's our Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. So always remember this one. Now, why do we study menstruation? We don't do anything in this deen. Please memorize this line. If you leave today, learned only this slide, I will do sajdat shukr to Allah. Because that's what we need in this deen. We need to know ala basirah, knowledge. This is ayah in Surah Yusuf, the last page of Surah Yusuf, where Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي. This is my path. This is my path. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. I call to Allah ala basirah. Basira mean knowledge, mean I know. And the reason I put this for many reasons, but one of them, especially for women, please don't answer a question about this deen, especially to my beloved Arab sisters. Because I don't know why there is in the Arabs more than the non-Arabs. I don't know why. Don't answer a question that you don't know the real answer. This is the deen of Allah. This is not math. This is not even medicine. This is the deen of Allah. If you told a woman this is haram and it is not haram, you better be ready to answer this to Allah. If you said this is a hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam and it's not a hadith, be careful. So please do this. Learn and say, I don't know. May Allah teach me. Ya Rabbi, Ameen. Now, the most important obligation in this life, in knowledge, is to know the obligations of Allah. And I'm going to do a quick question here. How many of you, if I ask right now, give me, and I just show me the hands, give me a recipe for a rice. Rice. How to cook rice. Any kind of rice. Just show me hands. I didn't say biryani, I didn't say any. Just rice. Right? طيب. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And just give me a number or say don't know, because alhamdulillah we are a good crowd. How many arkan in salah? How many pillars in salah that if I miss one, my salah is invalid, meaning I did not pray? What is the number? I can't hear you. So 14, huh? Right, wrong? How many say, I don't know? This is what I want to see. The arkan of salah, the pillars of salah, meaning if I don't do them, my salah is invalid. I did not perform salah. I saw every hand, almost 80% of the hands showing me rice recipe. And I saw almost the same number telling me I don't know the arkan of salah, how much we know about this deen. And this is why I put this slide. It's an obligation to learn this deen. I'm not talking about doing every aspect of this deen, but the major ones. And one of them is actually menstruation. And I wouldn't say menstruation, I would say vaginal bleeding. And look at this one. Menstruation, I loved it actually. I did this, looked in many books. The biggest books I found, the heaviest, the thickest book I found was written by a man. It was a PhD, his PhD thesis. How many pages he wrote about menstruation? Give a number, just to throw a number. 1,500 pages. I couldn't believe it. One of my teachers said, read this book, this is good. Every single thing. I was overwhelmed. You can actually download it. It's in Arabic, it's not in English. So the main reason, I found probably 5 or 6 books talking about the details of it, in the whole subject. So it's a lost knowledge. People, especially men, are uncomfortable talking about it simply because there is details they are not familiar. I'll give you an example. When the woman asks me a question and I am not very sure, so I say, go and ask the imam or the mufti or the scholar. And the scholar tell Dr. Haifa, is this menstruation or not? I was like, if I know it's menstruation or not, I will give her the fatwa. Did you get the point? So this is something we have to learn. It is not a choice, it's not an extra. Basics, every woman who has a daughter that is in the menstruation age, or she's 9 or 10, or you need to teach her, otherwise she's going to ask you in front of Allah. That's an obligation. When should I pray? Is this my period or not? That's the question. If it is, then I'll do. If it's not, I will do. And the Ibn al-Nujaym is a Hanafi. How many of you are here are Hanafi? Or at least they think they are Hanafi. Only Shafi'i a lot, because you have a lot of Syrians here and Palestine. What about the rest? Allah knows. Allahu Alam. Alhamdulillah. So Ibn al-Nujaym, for those of you who know, he's a very famous Hanafi scholar. He is, in general, anything is important when not knowing it is harmful. Anything in general, look at how they think. Anything in life is important when, if I don't know it, becomes harmful. Meaning, if I don't know how to drive and then I go behind the wheel, that's harmful. Then I need to learn how to drive. Did you get the point? So the same thing comes here with the menstruation. And the Ibn Qudama, which is a famous Hanbali scholar, he said the rules of menstruation are very important because it's related to the obligation of Allah. It's not like a diet. It's not like what is the Middle Eastern diet that everybody now is talking about. It's because it's related to my deen. And the main thing, it's related to salah, to siyam, to hajj, to my pillars. The only thing menstruation is not related to is zakah. But it is related to the pillars. The problem is the following. So why it is so complicated? يعني vaginal bleeding, few days she bleeds, and done. As we say in the Arabic, خلصنا. The problem is there's very few. There's actually only one ayah in the Quran. Only. Talks about menstruation. Only one. The one in front of you. And there is probably 10 hadiths. I don't think even there is. And people were so uncomfortable talking about it. And that's why it's a loss. I don't know, they didn't or it didn't reach us. But that's what they call it. It's a lost knowledge. And that's why when you ask people, they get so confused. You know, I spot before the period. Is that my period? Then I had a miscarriage. We were just talking this as in the break. I had a miscarriage. Is the bleeding is a period? Should I pray? Can my husband come close to me? No? What is it? So because that's number one. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ. And who asked them? They ask you about menstruation. Who did they ask? Huh? Ar-Rasul alayhi salatu wassalam. You and me these days are so uncomfortable asking the Imam about menstruation. They asked Ar-Rasul alayhi salatu wassalam. This is the ayah answer. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ. They ask you about menstruation. Tell them. It's a discomfort. There's so many translations, but I like the discomfort because I'm a woman and I know how we feel. Even if you don't get pain, what do you get? You're not yourself, right? The moods change, all my body aches, and if you get a heavy period, then I am absolutely drained, and some have really pain, some have bad pain, some of us end up in the emergency room. قُلْ هُوَ أَذًى. It's discomfort, pain, stay away from the woman. That's the only ruling clear, only one. فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. Stay away from them. This is to the men from the woman. What is the youngest age we have here? Because I need to be aware of what I am saying. What is the youngest age here? I mean, not this boy. What is the youngest girls here? Do we have 8, 7? How old are you? No, 12 is fine. 12, she probably knows more than I do these days. But I'm talking about any 7 or 8. طيب, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. So, يسألونك عن المحيض. Tell them they ask you about menstruation. Tell them it is discomfort, pain. فاعتزلوا النساء. Stay away from them. ولا تقربوهن. Don't have intimate relationship with them. حتى يطهرن. When the bleeding stops. فإذا تطهرن. When they take the shower, the ghusl. فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله. Then approach them as please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Now, this is the hadith that is clear about menstruation, and it's a true story. This is not a question, it's a true story. Of course, it's Sayyidah Aisha, the faqihah, the woman knowledgeable, scholar. And please don't call me a scholar. I think we abuse this word in America. Scholar, you know who's a scholar? Somebody who was like a professor, emeritus professor in a university. We are not. But unfortunately, I don't think there is a word in English because there's people who studied, people who are caller to Allah, but scholar, leave it. So Sayyidah Aisha was a scholar. The Sahaba, the companion used to come and ask her. So basically, Rasul went to Hajj. I need you to feel this as a woman, right? And I know somebody close who actually had this. It happened to her, who was with me in Hajj. So Rasul this is it. It's the only Hajj he did once only. So he took his wives with him. Okay? Left Medina. She made the niyyah. Came to Saraf. Saraf is a place close to Mecca, but they did not enter Mecca yet. And he entered to her room and saw her crying. Immediately, he said, "Ana fasti?" She didn't tell him. He said, you had your period? Subhanallah. That's Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. It's beauty. This deen is beauty. Imagine these days. And she said, yes. Why she's crying? Not because he didn't get her a gift, or because she didn't get that or this. See what makes them cry? Because she's going for Hajj with the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, having a period. It's probably gonna not be able to do what she was hoping. And he immediately felt it, because his answer says, "If'ali kama yaf'al al-hajj." Do like everything. Do everything that the pilgrim is doing. Shiyurahi, illa, except, an tatufi bil bayt, except tawaf. We're going to come to this later on. That's the hadith that gives me the second ruling. But it doesn't tell me if I'm spotting, what do I do? It doesn't tell me if I am bleeding for 20 days, what do I do? So this is the clear one about Hajj. Okay? Now, this one, I want you to memorize by heart. Because if you know the definition of menstruation, you will have no problem learning. You can tell right away, is this bleeding, is this menstruation or not? Once you know the difference, then the rest is a history. The word, and I put this in Arabic also because I knew there would be a good number of Arab-speaking people here. Alhamdulillah. Hayd, as we say it, menstruation in English, is actually something that flows. Memorize this, flows. As-sayalan, when you look at every book, and in deen in general, when you study the deen, any word, they tell you lughatan wa istilahan, linguistic and Islamically. For example, salah. Salah, what does the word salah mean? What does the word salah mean? Good morning. What does the word salah mean? I can't hear you. Huh? So, sila billah. Is that right? You're quiet. Yes or no? Or I don't know. Yes, it is, but not right. Why I'm saying this? Because I'm trying to make you think. Lughatan or istilahan, linguistic or Islamic term. If you tell me sila, connection, that's lughatan, that's linguistic. If you tell me prayer, that's Islamically. So always when you read in the books, they tell you lughatan wa istilahan. So linguistic, it's connection, but the linguistic is related to the Islamic term. So the salah in reality is not just up and down, it's a connection. Why I'm explaining this? Because then it's gonna make you think. So menstruation is flow. Hayd, something has to flow. What that's gonna tell you? The spotting before the period. Remember this when we're gonna come to it. So istilahan is basically, it's the flow. Now there is, I don't know if I put it or I removed it. No, I removed it because of the time. So every school of thought define it differently. It blows your brain when you get to prepare this. Because everyone define it differently. Then I found that for the Syrian ladies, you all know this. Sheikh Wahab al-Zuhairi, may Allah give him Jannah al-Firdaus, one of the best contemporary scholars. There is no part of this deen he didn't write a book. He has a very famous book called Al-Fiqh Al-Islami wa Adillatah. It's 11 chapters. Covers everything in this deen. So I found his definition is the most inclusive. So basically, memorize this, and I put it in red for a reason. It has to be a flow. So bleeding, that's flow. It has to be normal. I'm not sick. I didn't have a baby. I didn't put an IUD. I didn't do surgery. Normally. That's 2. 3, regularly, on a certain time. That's why in the Arabic language we say al-'ada. What's al-'ada? It's my habit. So it's habit. So it's regular. And it comes from the uterus. Because if I have, and I'm going to speak some technical words, if you don't understand, I will explain. If there is a polyp on the cervix, polyp, extra tumor, on the neck of the cervix, and that bleeds, and it can bleed like crazy, that's not period. That's coming from not the right place. So that has to come from the right place, the inside of the uterus. And not because of bleeding, or not because of birth, or because of a disease. That's menstruation. Clear? Memorize this. So I put this one more time. It's a flow of blood. Healthy woman from the uterus, not because of delivery, not because of an illness, and in an appropriate or a non-time. So when the woman asks me, I'm bleeding, I don't know if this is my period. My first question, when was your last period? What's your 'ada? What's your habit? Okay? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. What's the age? What's the age I say this is period? No, she's too young. Like 9. طيب. Any other numbers? 10, okay. Huh? 11, sure. 12. On which basis? This is deen. Remember? You're answering without telling me on which basis. I say by experience. By experience is good, but it's not deen. By experience, I think 3 rak'at in Fajr is better. Can I do this? Why not? By experience. See my point? By the way, your answer is right. You're the right answer. But I'm trying to teach us, and you're going to hear me saying this again and again. Don't answer in this deen unless you know. And the best answer is I don't know. Right? Now, medically speaking, these days, when I was in medical school, it was actually 13. When I was in training, it became 11. And now it is 9, medically speaking. As an OBGYN, if you bring me your daughter and she's 9, I'm going to examine her, look at her, and say, this is her period. In deen, it is 9. They didn't know anything about medicine. Subhanallah. And this based on hadith of Sayyidah Aisha actually, and this is the opinion of Ibn Abbas and Ibn Taymiyyah. This is long time ago. They said 9. Subhanallah, every time I read this, it blew my mind. Because medicine changed it in the last 20 years. And now they became to 9. Is that 100%? So if she's 8, it's not a period? Now you're quiet. I am very happy. And if she's 7, if you bring me your daughter and she's 7 and she's bleeding, can this be a period? If it has this, it's a period. But you don't take it right away as a period. 9 is the age in medicine, 9 is the age in deen. Because if I said a period, this girl is baligha. This is really big one. This girl became an adult. Yes, she can be a witness in a court. Now siyam became obligation. It's not if you can, became an obligation, done. Salah became an obligation. So you really have to be careful when you say this. So the average age is 9, and this is what it is. If when the woman sees the blood, which fits the criteria of menstrual blood, then it is menstruation even younger than 9 years. This is Ibn Abbas and Ibn Taymiyyah, 100 years ago. So the issue, the main thing is I need to know the bleeding itself. Okay? When does it stop? Now no one is going to answer. Medicine, it's okay. Don't talk about fiqh. Medicine. What is the average age? How many physicians we have in this room? Where is Sundus? Sundus is a family physician. Where is Sundus? What is the age? I'm sorry? What is the age in medicine? Research has shown the average age of menstruation is what? دقيقة 1 49, huh? Answer is okay, this is not deen. Huh? So we have 51, we have 49. Huh? I can't hear you. 50. Average age of menstruation, of menopause is actually 51. Yes, 51 in medicine. What about the deen? So if I am bleeding and it's 55, I am 55 years of age, for example, or I am 60, and I'm still having bleeding, is that a period? Should I stop my so what did we say? Wait. Okay? Different opinion. School of thoughts differ, huge difference in this one. Again, because there is no rulings, they cannot base it on anything, right? Here you go for all the 4 school of thoughts, whichever one you follow. So the Hanafi regarded as 55. However, they put, now remember, the Hanafi mean the school. They said 55, but if the woman is continuing to see a blood that fit menstruation, it's still menstruation. Imam Malik and the Maliki school said 70. 70. And between 50 and 70, ask her, does that look a bleeding menstruation or not? Imam al-Shafi'i, no limit. Al-Hanabila, they said it's 50, based upon a statement to Sayyidah Aisha. So the Hanabila is the closest to medicine, right? Which one you follow? 2 answers. If you are a woman, for example, grew up in Indo-Pak, and you do everything the Hanafi way, you're a Hanafi, you follow the Hanafi. You grew up in Syria or in Sham, and you follow the Shafi'i, you're a Shafi'i. Don't pick and choose. Well, I like this 50. Yeah, then I'm gonna do 50. No. 50, they're gonna tell I'm old. I'm gonna be Maliki, 70. 70, I'm still young. Imam Malik says, don't do that. Don't pick and choose between the madhahab, between the school of thoughts. This is something, you take it and you follow it all the way. Okay? And medicine says 51. It's actually 50 plus 0.8, so we just regard it as 51. Have I seen a woman 60 and she's still menstruating? Yes. What is the youngest I have seen as a physician? 29, actually. 29, she went to premature menopause. Subhanallah. Yeah, I mean, rare, but you see it. Okay, so remember this. Why? Why do I need to know this? Because what will happen to the bleeding after? And this is very common. 3-4 years later, she comes bleeding. What is this? Menstruation? Should I? This is the first question that comes to my office. Should I pray? And if she was in Hajj or Umrah, it's a disaster, emergency. So really need to know this. So this is the average age of menopause. Colors. Before you show. This one you can answer me. It's not fiqh. What is the commonest color of the menstrual blood? We are women. We need to know this. Actually, red is number 2. Number 1, it's a black actually. It's darker. It's darker. This is because of what it contains. Learn this, ladies. Think of it this way. If you cut your finger for whatever the reason, the blood comes out red, right? Look, think of the menstrual blood. It's not the same color. Is it? Why not? Because it doesn't contain only blood. It contains the tissues that's inside the uterus. So the colors coming to this. All scholars agree these are the 4. Can be black, can be red, can be yellow, can be turbid. Turba, actually, especially the Hanafi school. Turbid. So if I see this, what will happen to us? We're all women. Sometimes I see these 4 in one cycle. right? Starts black, then day 3 become red, then day 5 it becomes brown, and now the question comes in, am I done or I am not done? So remember, the color could be any of this. Okay, clear? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Next, big question. So you're pregnant, 2 months, 7 months, 9 months, but you're not in labor and you bleed. Is that menstruation? Should you pray or you shouldn't pray? See the reason? See the question? Did you know why it is very important to learn? Because should I pray or not? And if it was in Ramadan, break my fast or not? What do you think? Now it's okay, I want you to think. Especially physicians can answer me correctly. Does she menstruate or not? Yeah, most of the scholars, you're right, they say لا تحيض الحامل. They don't. Essential ruling states the pregnant woman does not menstruate. La ilaha illallah. Because when you come to OBGYN and you come to the pathology, why the pregnant woman bleed is completely different than menstruation. Menstruation, in general, very simple. It's shedding of the lining. Subhanalladhi la ilahu. Allah created us this way. He created us, fashioned us, women, to become mothers. So He gave us the uterus and did changes in the uterus so the baby can come and stay there. La ilaha illahu. So hormones, then the lining ready for the baby. Literally, this is how it is. Subhanallah. And if no baby comes in, meaning no egg, fertilized egg comes in, the ready lining comes out. That's menstruation. Pregnant lady, there is no lining. She's already pregnant. She usually bleeds either because of the membranes separate or the placenta separate. So it's a very different pathophysiology, as we say. How did they know that? How did they know that? SubhanAllah, the more I read this, La ilaha illallah, Wallah ladhi allahu, the more you would learn about this deen, it blows your brain. It just cannot be. It's amazing. So most of the time, most of the scholars says that she doesn't. Maybe some says yes, could be. So how long? Minimum. What's the minimum and what's the longest? And then there's average. So there's 3 questions. Shortest, longest, average. Let's take the average. That's the easy one. Exactly. 5 to 6 days. Minimum. 3. Any other answer? 1. Any other answer? Both are right, these. Huh? 1 minute. Faqiha. All of you are fuqaha. I'll show you. Abu Hanifa, the Hanafi school, and you do not gonna pick and choose again here. Al-Ahnaf, it's 3 days. That's why you answered the 3 days. The Shafi'i and the Hanbali school, it's 24 hours. Yawmun wa layla, they say, a day and a night, right? Other scholars, especially contemporary scholars, they say there is no limit. We don't have a dalil. I don't have an evidence and a proof from the Quran or from the hadith that reached me to say it's minimum. If she sees a flow, remember the word, flow of a blood in that day, that's menstruation. If it came at Dhuhr time and then finished at Asr time, then she doesn't pray Dhuhr, Asr takes a shower and then she's right. That's it. If she was fasting day of Ramadan, she breaks the day. So the other scholar says no limit. If you are a Hanafi, it's 3 days. And it's amazing, this community. When I was giving this in St. Louis, everybody is Hanafi. Right away they answered 3 to 10 days. So the minimum is 3, yawmun wa layla, or no limit to it. Longest Hanafi is 10 days. The Jumhur or the not the consensus, the majority of the opinion, it's actually 15 days. This is very important to know. These are not just throwing numbers. How many of you, don't show me hands, these are private things, but you have heard that a lady come to you and says, for the last 20 days, I am bleeding. Right? And then 3 days, and I stop, and another 20 days. Which one? And it's all flowing. Which one is period? That's why you need to know this. Maximum, in the majority of the opinion, is 15 days. So after the 15, if you're still bleeding, that's abnormal bleeding. Did you get the point? Did you get it? Because these are daily life. We go through this. Now, this is a long hadith, but this really helps me in a lot of the things. This is a woman came to Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. I want you to feel this. Wallahi alladhi allahu, these days, and I am an OBGYN, I feel very uncomfortable asking this question, let alone to Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? This is Hamina bint Jahsh, she's a Sahabiya, companion, right? She said, I used to have a very heavy bleeding. And I came to Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam and asked him this question. Meaning she bleed heavy and continuously. And she said, what do I do? Can you believe this? And look what he answered. SubhanAllah. Again, beauty. Look what he said. He said, this is raqdatun min ash-shaytan. Raqda min ash-shaytan means you have a problem. There's a disease. In between brackets, go and get checked. That's what I always tell women. So number one, the answer is medical, is this life. But then comes to the most important, what should I do? He said, count 6 to 7 of these as your period. And the rest is not a period. So he said, you take your shower and you pray. If you can, then he gave her the solution. And I'm going to come to this later, but I'm going to say this just in case time will not be enough. If you can, when you're heavy bleeding, if you can, delay your dhuhr to the just time of asr. Take a shower. Pray dhuhr and asr in one shower. And do the same with maghrib and isha. And for fajr, faf'ali. Do it. So 3 showers a day. If you cannot, that's where the scholars came in these days and say, if you cannot, take a shower once a day. If you cannot, once only after the 6th day, and the rest you just do your wudu before every salah. So this gave us a lot of fiqh rulings. It's amazing. La ilaha illallah. And I always say this when I remember this. There's a huge book called Fathul Bari في شرح صحيح البخاري. Fathul Bari, Ibn Hajar is a scholar. Not a scholar. Scholar is underestimate. So he wrote a commentary about the Imam al-Bukhari book. Huge book, volumes. And I was reading the book of ilm, the book of knowledge. One hadith about a tree. He wrote 10 pages of the benefits and rulings we get from this hadith. Ya Rabbi, it's a tree. So the scholars that they have, the eye scholars and the brain scholars, look at this hadith and they get so many rulings out of it. For us, I'll say 6 to 7, my average, I learned this. 24 days is the rest is not. And what do I do for the salah? Okay? I hope I did not confuse you so far. You're too quiet. Either you're too engaged or you're getting too tired and confused. May Allah make you too engaged. Ya Rabbi, Ameen. So minimum duration of no bleeding. At-tahur, they say it. Again, I bleed all the time. And sometimes I know my period, sometimes I don't. This especially in Ramadan comes in. And I always tell the woman, you have to have 15 days of the month that you are praying and fasting. Minimum 15 days. The next 15 days, it depends on your madhab, how long you're going to say this bleeding is. 10 days, 15 days. Did you get it? So the minimum amount that every month a woman has to pray and fast, has to pray in Ramadan to fast, is 15. أقل مدة الطهر. Between how many days between each period is minimum 15. Cannot be less. Except Imam al-Hanbali, which is the only opinion, he said could be 13. But the majority says 15. And everyone you ask is going to tell you 15. Why do I have to learn all this? Ya Rabbi, this is too complicated, right? You're all overwhelmed already because of this. These are the main, and I actually removed because of time and because you are not like a real students. I mean, there is just about marriage and divorce. Ya Allah. Or marital relationship, all this. I need to know this because it's related to my salah and to my fasting and to my Quran and to my masjid and to my hajj and to my relationship with my husband and my divorce and my witness and my pregnancy. It's all related to it. So I need to learn this now. And I put this in black. I was actually originally putting it in red. There is a reason why I put this slide in this clear. Read with me the slide. The menstruating woman does not pray and does not make up her prayers. Why did I put this? You're probably going to say, of course, right? Well, I'm sorry, ladies, things are changing. There is ladies who, you're nodding your head, you probably have heard it. Why not? Why I cannot pray? Yes, you hear this. And same thing, even worse with siyam. Why not? This 10 days or 15 days or 7 days, I get very weak. And I lose my connection with Allah and I want to pray. What do you tell this woman? Her intention is good. زين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم. This is how shaitan twists my thinking and yours. I want to be closer to Allah, and this 7 days is too much for me. I get lazy. I struggle afterward to make the salah or to go back to the habit. What do you say? I need to hear an answer. What do you say? To yourself or to me or that person who's saying this? What do you say? I'm sorry? True, you can make dhikr or tasbih, but there is a better answer. You are getting close, but I need the answer. I'm sorry? Exactly. Your ibadah, your act of worship during menstruation is not to pray. Did you get the point? Ibadah, my worship, my act of worship with Allah is not what I like, is not what I love, is what He told me to do. My Islam is to submit to His will. He said, Ya Haifa, when you have your period, you are not praying. Done. My answer is, سمعنا وأطعنا. That's number one. I want you all to memorize this statement. When people tell you, why do you wear hijab? There is a million reasons. But number one, you have to tell yourself before anyone, because Allah told me to. That's my Islam. Islam, linguistically, is actually submission to the will of Allah. And what is the submission to the will of Allah? He told me, don't pray. And I'm going to come and argue, like we all argue about everything these days. No, but, if, and. ما في but and if and what. He said, don't pray. The answer is don't pray. And look at this. I think I have it. Yes. Right? And based on this hadith, that's it, and it's in Imam al-Bukhari. A woman came to and the hadith I just shared with you, he said, when the menstruation comes, stay away from salah. Don't pray. Now, why don't we make it up? I love praying. I'm just giving you a scenario. And I'm fine, and I want to make it up. I feel less if I pray, this thinking these days, the quote unquote, the way we think women, or they made us think that we are less if we don't do the same thing as the man does, which is absolutely not my deen. That my husband prayed 30 days and I pray 23, so I need to make up this 7 days to be equal. What do you say? Look at this hadith. Read the hadith. Read the screen. This is a question was asked to Sayyidah Aisha. Why don't we make it up? Why don't we make it up? Same question about Sawm. And she actually answered, Aharuriyatun anti? There's a town in Iraq. And inshallah, it's not Dublin. The town is famous for people being argumentative. Argue about everything. Everything. Some of you are smiling. Looks like it's hitting home. Right? Allah knows. But the point is, are you from that part of the world that you keep arguing? And she answered, that's it. This is what we did at the time of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. We did not pray, and he did not tell us to make it up. Done. As we say with Arabic, ريحي راسك. You know what that means? Have a peace of mind. Don't argue. He said, don't do it, don't do it. خلصنا. Done. Right? Now I'm going to give you scenarios. It's actually, there was like 20 slides of this, but I said they cannot take it. Right? So I just kept this one for me. So if the woman, there's two scenarios. And focus with me even if you don't want to read this. I'll make it much simpler and easy. So here you are. Dhuhr came at 12:30. Right? And you were very busy. Picking up the children. I was delivering a baby. You were probably doing something. Right? And 1:30. Boom, period came. What happened to this Dhuhr Salah? Qada. Mean say that? Who said that? No, I'm not saying, no, who said that? That's the question. Should she make it up or she should not make it up? Based upon the question, look at this, look how they think. Of course, you're teaching them the Shafi'i, right? Yeah, that's easy answer. The way they were thinking, is the salah at any time is allowed? That's why Allah gave us the time. So if you do it in the beginning or you do it at the end, it's the same. So if the period comes in the middle, what's the problem? That's where they differed. That's where they differed. And the answer is here. Most of the scholars will tell you, if the time comes in and you have not yet prayed, the salah is not an obligation on you, that one. Imam al-Shafi'i is a different. Right? If you want to make it up later on, because there's a question, is there something called making up salah? That's even another question. Qada. Can I just make up all these salats I didn't pray when I was young and just now start making them up? There's even different opinion. There's nothing called qada, or there is. I don't want to confuse you, but I just want you to see how much there is thinking. So basically, scholars will tell you, you don't have to make it up. Imam al-Shafi'i tells you have to make it up. Again, which one you are. Or follow your teacher. Or follow your imam. Like if you are here, if you are the one who are authorized to give the fatwa, then that's what you do. And yes, how much? Oh, Ya Rabbi. Ready? All this? We're going to do tahajjud tonight here. I still have to finish. Pick and choose. Maybe they are repeated. Could be the same. So you pick and choose. Okay. Right? And the other scenario, you had your period, 2:30 is Asr, 2:15 you're clean. Huh? Salah obligation or not? Did you get my point? No. Focus with me. 2:30 is Asr. Up till 2:15, I had my period. 2:16, I saw the white discharge, which one of the signs that your period is done. Is the salah now became obligation? Again, different opinion. It depends how much time left for the salah. Do I have enough time to do my ghusl? All this, they took it in consideration. I had this question amazing in Dallas, actually. When a young girl stood up and says, I'm in college. And I gave the same scenario. Where will I do my ghusl? Did you see why there is different opinion? Because they take all this in consideration. And the scholars will tell you, if you cannot do ghusl, do what? You do tayammum. Yes, that's in the Quran, actually. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ No. Just a second. فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمُّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. If you did not find a water, and the scholar says if you didn't find or you have no access to it, or it's harmful to you, then you do tayammum. In general, that salah becomes an obligation on you. That salah becomes an obligation because when the time of the salah is still there, you are a mukallaf now. The menstruation is done. So you do your best. If you can do your ghusl, if you cannot do your ghusl like the scenario I give you, you can do tayammum. Right? Clear? There's a lot of, the questions are piling. Can you write the question? Jazakillahu khair. Okay. So here we are, I'm fasting. The commonest, I'll give you an example. Where was I? I don't know, for some reason could not open my phone for maybe 24 or 48 hours. It was close to Ramadan, or we already started Ramadan. I'm not remembering the scenario. 55 messages. I counted them. It's all about this, because of fasting. Should I fast? Am I clean? Can I or can I not? Okay, so let's start with this. Forbidden, same story as the salah. And this actually much more common question comes up these days. Why not fasting? It is not in the Quran. That's how they are saying it. Same thing. Da'i salah. Stay away from salah and no fasting. The hadith of Sayyidah Aisha I just showed you. So for sure, we do not. Should we make it up? Huh? It shouldn't be yes. It should be yes. Absolutely. You make it up, that's an obligation. And please, do it as soon as possible. The question always comes up, should I do it in Shawwal or I do it later on? Right? Do it as soon as you can. As soon as you can, for sure. Don't make it to the lastminute.com. And then you come to Ramadan coming and you still have 10 days more. And then Ramadan comes in and it starts piling up. Don't do that. Do it as soon as you can. Two scenarios, and this is actually where it is the obligation of making it up. Same hadith of Sayyidah Aisha. And she said to her, a woman also asked her, she said, at time of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, we had our period. We did not pray. We did not fast. We were ordered to make up the fasting, but we're not ordered to make up salah. Done. That's the evidence on it. Now, two scenarios. In the day of Ramadan, fasting, alhamdulillah, in the summer, in the States, Maghrib is 9, 8:55. 8:55. And you had your period. After you cry, and after you say, why me? Okay. My answer to you, I'm sorry, but this is not counted. I feel for you, but this is my ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if it is 1 minute, and actually this happens, even if it is 1 minute before, don't say, but I fasted 16 hours. Wallahi, I know. So the bleeding stopped during the day of Ramadan. Oh, this is actually the other scenario. The other scenario, you had your period. And you woke up in the morning and you still had your period. By Dhuhr, you're clean. So what happens to this day? So number one, there's a couple of things. Should I continue eat and drink? Number two, can I fast? Can I start from now fasting? And number three, should I make it up? So let's take it one by one. Let's take Dhuhr time. So because you have still a long day, a good amount of time in the day. Number one, that day is not counted as fasting. Because Ramadan, you have to make the niyyah, and it has to be, and this is in the Quran, right? From morning, and from Fajr to Maghrib. You all know this. So it doesn't matter what time it stops. Should I eat in public? Scholars differ. I had a slide about this, but I removed it because of time. Scholars said yes, scholars says no. I love the opinion says, out of haya, from Allah, don't publicly eat. That's how it is. I love that answer. Because how many people, if you eat publicly, will say, oh, she has her period? Especially us living, no, I mean it. Especially living in a non-Muslim country. So why do I want to put myself in a doubtful position, right? Should I eat? Yes, you are, because you're not supposed to fast. So if you want to drink water, do whatever you want in privacy. Should I make it up? The answer is yes. And the other slide is the scenario. If she gets clean before Fajr, but she had no time to do ghusl, fast? Yes, absolutely. Fast. Don't worry about ghusl. You can make ghusl after Fajr. Remember the salah? This is the other way around. Because tuhur is not a requirement to start your, meaning tuhur, meaning taking the shower, is not a requirement to start your sawm. So you woke up in the morning, let's take this scenario, right? You're in the last day and you're not sure, yes, maybe, I think I am clean. Then you put a pad and you went to sleep. Subhanallah, you woke up at Fajr. You woke up at Fajr and you found out that you are clean. You saw the white discharge or nothing. Now what do I do? It's Fajr time. Make your intention, tawakkali ala Allah, and then you can make your ghusl later on in the day. This is much easier. This is probably that makes you smile. Alhamdulillah. Right? Okay. طيب. Quran. Quran. And the Quran includes many things. Touching, reading. Touching and reading. And reading includes two things. A lot of the Quran or just one ayah. Is there a difference? And this question I get many times. What about the adhkar of the morning and evening? Or what about I'm reading my child Ayatul Kursi before he goes to bed? These are all scenarios, real life scenarios. So let's look at this. Number one, the worship, her worship with the book of Allah. Reading the Quran and touching the Quran. Let's start reading the Quran. Reading the Quran, the ulama look at it this way. Less than one ayah, Ayatul Kursi. Right? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Versus you're reading the Quran, your wird, your daily whole juz. You're a hafidha, mashallah, tabarakallah, and you review the Quran 3-5 ajza a day. What should I do? Okay, what do you do here? I know the Shafi'i, so what did you teach them? Shafi'i, by the way, I'm sorry, yeah. Huh? So the sister will read not from the Quran. Okay, let's look at this. So reading the Quran. Almost consensus of opinion. You cannot read from the Quran. Consensus of opinion. Almost. Like look at the Hanafi, Shafi'i, Hanbali, Al-Jumhur basically. Al-Hasan, Al-Nawawi, Al-Zuhri, Ata, Ibn Jubayr, most of the scholars. She cannot read the Quran. Meaning, you cannot read. Then they come and says, what's reading mean? Right? Reading meaning moving your lips. So can I look with my eyes and read? That's where they differ. Contemporary scholars, they said she can read in the following conditions. Number one, I can't hear you. She is a hafidha, exactly, memorizing the Quran, and she is worried she will forget it. Yes, you can. Two, teacher, exactly, teaching the Quran. Yes, you can. Okay? But for your daily act of worship, to stay away, and this is very good for everybody, stay away when there is different opinion. For yourself, take the safest one. It will make you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't look at the rukhas, don't look at the permissions. Right? If 3 scholars agree, don't do it, don't do it. There's way more other things I can worship Allah in that time. Except as we said the exceptions. I am a student, I am teaching the Quran, I am a hafidha, and I worry 7 or 10 or 15 days, I will forget a lot. Yes, you can. Okay? طيب. This is the hadith they depend on, where you cannot read the Quran, and I gave you the critique of this hadith. And the other one is also لا تقرأ الحائض والنفساء من القرآن شيئا. But this is not a strong hadith. That's where this different opinions, especially the newer scholars, not people who just studied a year or two, real scholars. And the book I was telling you about, probably he said like has 20 or 30 pages just critiquing this hadith. Scientific criticism, not scientific. So in general, the agreed upon opinion now, most of the time you will hear that the woman during her menstruation cannot read the Quran. If you hear somebody, with the exceptions, the two I told you, teacher, three actually, teacher or a student, or she's a hafidah reviewing her Quran, she's worried it's going to be... However, Imam Malik allowed it. These are the scholars who allowed it. Imam Malik, in one opinion of Imam Shafi'i, Ahmad in a report, Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri, Ibn al-Musayyib, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib is a tabi'i, and Ibn al-Mundhir. So there is also scholars who allowed it, but the one who didn't allow it is much more. That's why it's the general opinion we all know. So what should I do? I am a lay person, I am not a scholar. I am not a hafidah, I'm not a teacher, and I'm not a student. What should I do to be safe? Listen. Read from, well, you still can read the tafsir. Read the tafsir. Or listen to the Quran. Listen to the Quran. And you will be still in connection with the Quran itself. And some allow to read it with your eyes without moving your tongue. طيب. And this is, there's a lot of discussion about the allow the hadith, but we don't have time to go this, but this is the ayah. They said the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam sent this ayah to An-Najashi, and it says he led to the Najashi, which was not a Muslim at that time, to read the Quran, and this ayah was there. So what about a Muslim woman who's during her menstruation? There's a lot of scientific discussions, and I'm going to save you all this detail, but probably the one that most people depend on is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to remember Him all the time. And He did not make exception for that. So that's where some scholars says, yes, she can. Reading one ayah, Ayatul Kursi, you're putting your son to sleep. One ayah. What do you say? This one is actually differed, but the difference is almost 50-50. So 50% says yes, she can, it's a one ayah, and some, Al-Hanafi and the Shafi'i, and one opinion by Imam Ahmad says it's not permissible. But I also will do the same thing. Let your child, I got this question actually, this is why I put this slide. Let your child read it. Let your child read it, and you listen to him. Then you are out of the different opinion. For the adhkar of the morning and the evening, it's part of the adhkar. You're not reading the Quran itself. So when you do your morning and evening adhkar, I hope everybody does it here. Ya Rabbi, Ameen. So you read Ayatul Kursi, you read Al-Mu'awwidat. This is part of the adhkar. You're not reading the Quran. You know what I'm saying? It's part of your morning and evening adhkar. It's part of your dhikr, as the sister just said here. Part of your dhikr. طيب. Touching the Quran. Now touching the Quran. Right? Now, not permissible and permissible. Most scholars tells you these days, there is no evidence to tell me don't touch it. And again, this is a very scientific discussion. But the four Imams and Ibn Taymiyyah, they did not allow it. So what should I do? Touch it with a barrier. Wear a glove. Right? And when will you touch the Quran? Right? You're giving it to someone. You're moving it from one place to the other. Right? So touch it with a barrier, and you're out of the different opinion. The reason I put the different opinion, because if you see a scholar, not lay person, who will have this opinion, tell yourself there is a background in this. It's not like he or she is saying, there is a background, there's a scientific discussion about it. But for me and you as a lay persons, we don't know, take the safest one. Don't touch it. Put a glove. خلاص. And that's much, much easier and much safer. And the masjid. There's two things in the masjid. Passing and staying. So passing, for example, your son your son is in the library, right? And you're coming to pick him up. And all the doors are locked. The only door to get to this is you have to go through the musalla. Can I do that? I love it. No answer. Alhamdulillah. Yes. The scholars will tell you passing by is yes. Passing by is yes. The question is, can I stay in the masjid? Most of these scholars, especially, and this, here you go, actually this is almost consensus, that it is impermissible to stay in the masjid. And labthu fil masjid, they call it, like now. Now, this is a musalla. You're here, right? Or for example, Taraweeh, Ramadan. And this is my days, I love to hear the Quran. So can I come and sit in the back and listen? This 4 school of thoughts tell you, you cannot, right? And this is also a discussion, I'm gonna save you from this. The one thing I want you to learn is this, and it's very hard to translate, but the woman during menstruation, she is tahira because she's a believer. The body of the believer is pure. Pure. So don't say I am najis or she is najis, because Allah used this word for only one thing in the Quran. What did He say? يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما المؤمنون نجس إنما المشركون نجس فلا يقربوا المسجد الحرام بعد عامهم هذا. Mushrik, don't believe in Allah, associate another God with Allah, that's not pure. But a believer is pure. So don't say I'm not pure. It's hard to translate in English. We use this word. Even when I was doing this with the translation, I was like, I have to be very careful in the words I use. In general, the believer body is pure. Absolutely. So coming into the masjid, this is crossing the masjid. Contemporary scholars, some scholars says, if she is sure, the reason of not staying in the masjid these days because they are worried the blood may come on the floor of the masjid. And the blood is not pure. The blood is najis. The blood is not pure. So they were worried if she's in the masjid, the blood may come. So some scholars these days tells you if she is sure the blood is not going to come, which these days is, subhanAllah, became much easier for us, then yes, you will see some people will allow. But the majority, the 4 school of thoughts, they do not allow it. And this is about crossing the masjid. Right, how about i'tikaf? How many of you do i'tikaf in Ramadan? Okay. Lafu? I'm sorry? Yeah, even the last 10 days, 1 day. So i'tikaf, school of thoughts 4, you cannot. During the time of menstruation, no i'tikaf in the masjid. Again, because of the masjid. Okay? Hajj and Umrah, and this is probably going to be the last one. Simple, I gave you the hadith in the beginning. Don't cry, don't make it end of the world. I hear this every time I go to Hajj, ladies with me come crying. I was like, okay, you got your period. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, you're like Sayyidah Aisha. This is how I start saying. Be smile, Allah elevated you to be at the level of Sayyidah Aisha. She doesn't take it, of course, she's still crying. Then I say, don't worry. This is what he said to her. He said, افعلي كما يفعل الحاج. Do like everything. Meaning, can she do stand in Arafah? Can she be in Ihram? Can she go to Mina? Can she cast the pebbles? Yes or no? The only thing she cannot do is tawaf. Now comes in a contemporary issue that was not there before. And this happens especially for us coming from America. So here she comes. She is leaving immediately after Eid. And she got the period the day of Eid. So, and her period is 7 days. She did not do Tawaf al-Ifada. Tawaf al-Ifada is a rukun, is the rukun of Hajj. If there is no Tawaf Ifada, she does not circumambulate around the Kaaba the day of Eid, then there is no Hajj. It's a rukun. What should she do? She's traveling. She's coming with a huge group. So the first question is, can you stay? If she's with her husband, this is the first question. Can you stay a couple of extra days till she is clean? Most of the time the answer is absolutely no. You're coming with a group. So what do? Huh? So they allowed her to, this is contemporary scholars. I don't think there's a different opinion about this. You can do tawaf, only ifada, and you count it as also your farewell tawaf, both. Although the farewell tawaf is not even an obligation anymore, but that will be the last thing you do. Make sure you are, which alhamdulillah these days we don't have to worry about this thing. And then used to be some scholars used to say you need to give blood as a fidya. These days they said you don't have to do this because this is something out of your control. So don't cry. That's what I keep telling women. You will do it. Don't worry. Sa'i, you do not have to worry about it. You can do sa'i at time of menstruation, but there is no sa'i without tawaf. So I have to start with the tawaf first. You all know the word tawaf? Yes? So there's no point sa'i with no tawaf. So at the end of the day, you'll be doing everything everybody else is doing. Because, and this is a true story, very recently. One of people I don't know very well, she's also a physician, and it was the end of the world because she will get her period at the time of the Hajj. Her first Hajj, I don't blame her. It's her first Hajj. You know, it's very different Hajjs, subhanAllah. And kept talking to her, who gave her medications. So I kept telling her, don't take the medications. And if you get your period, you're like a Sayyidah Aisha and all this. Fine, this didn't work. I said, fine, let's take the medications. So she took the medication. What about if I get the period? You know how shaitan keeps us worried? And I just said, yeah, just turn to Allah and say, Ya Allah, you are the one who brings periods and you are the one who stops periods. Please don't bring it. It will ruin my Hajj. To me, internally. You know what I'm saying? Not fiqh, not rulings, but internally, I am gonna not be focused as I want to be. Guess what happened? No period. She said she called me after she came back from Hajj. I was in the plane coming back and it came. Because she was sincere with Allah. That's what I was trying to tell you, is the ibadah, act of worship, is not what I want to do, is what He wants me to do. And He wants to see in me and you are sincere. You are doing this because you want Him. Show this to Allah and He will give it to you. So for Hajj, don't make it a big drama. Except the tawaf, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, for example, this last Hajj, I was with a couple of friends from Saudi, and the woman lives in Jeddah. So I was like, no. Go back to Jeddah. Jeddah is 45 minutes. Drive. You go back to Jeddah, finish your period, come back and do your tawaf. That's a ruling. There was another lady from Riyadh. It's 2 hours flight with her husband. She said, I can't come back. You apply the same thing. And ladies are from the States. So always there is solutions. Turn to Allah sincerely and says, Ya Allah, مَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whomsoever have awe, love of Allah, Allah will give him way out. So I told you all this. All these are allowed in Hajj, Ihram, Sa'i, standing in Arafah, casting the pebbles, cutting the hair, slaughtering the animal. All these are allowed. So don't make it a drama. It is. It becomes a drama. You probably don't see it because they don't come to you. Farewell, if you have done your tawaf al-ifada, so day Eid first, you did it, alhamdulillah. But then you're leaving a week later, and then you got your period the day before you leave. Tawaf al-wada, the farewell, circumambulation around the Kaaba is a wajib, is an obligation. It's not a rukun, it's an obligation. But if you have your period, it's not an obligation anymore. Don't worry, don't cry. Okay? I have to look at who's sitting here. Okay, marital relationship. I'm going to go through this very quickly for many reasons. Very simple. The answer is no, and no, and no, and no. Am I clear? Very clear? No if, no but, because the dalil is in the Quran. The evidence is in the Quran, clear. فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهُنَّ. Don't come close to them. Okay, and there is a lot of discussion, and I removed all these slides. What about if it happened? What will do? Kafara on the man? What about the woman? So absolutely not. Okay, and all these about this. For example, I want you to read the second hadith. Okay, and this is in Ibn Majah. من أتى حائضا أو امرأة في دورها أو كاهنا فصدقه بما يقول فقد كفر بما أنزل به محمد. This is a very strong hadith. Whomsoever have a relationship لا حياء في الدين with a woman during her menstruation, or have a relationship from not the right, from the usual, from what Allah allowed us to, كفر بما نزل على محمد. So be careful. Be careful about these things. Okay? Does she have to pay? And I'm going to pass this one. Okay. How about, can we have a marital relationship? Again, لا حياء في الدين. We need to learn. Can the husband and the wife enjoy each other without the intimate relationship during menstruation? The answer is yes. Now imagine if the woman has a 15 days of bleeding. And this is part of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us. Again, these things we have to learn, and we have to be comfortable, but with haya, with bashfulness and modesty and humbleness. And yes, above the navel and below the knee is allowed in all the school of thoughts. And I think we are done, walillah alhamd. I removed a lot of the things. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rabbi put a barakah, took us our, oh good, and they are, okay, so it's half tahajjud, not all tahajjud. I was waiting for these questions. Does the brown spots 2 days before our date, can we pray or fast? Let's clarify the spotting issue, because spotting is an issue. So I have spotting as a woman, we as women. The spotting will be before the period, after the period, in the middle of the cycle. Am I right? These are the 3 scenarios. Before the period, if it does not befit flow, then it is not a period. And what does a flow mean? And I'm going to come in detail because I want you to understand this. This is what I tell my patients. And I say, if you stand, do you feel something coming out? That's a flow. Please forgive me if you are in the bathroom and you are urinating. Something comes out natural, that's a flow. If the woman wipe, that's not a flow. Did you get that? It's very easy for you to understand. Then this, once you know this, then this is not a period. Before the period. After the period, different story. 2 ways we know period is done. 2 ways only. And people and women are different. Either you will see a white discharge, they call it al-qas'a al-bayda, white flow. Some women see this. That is it, period is done. Or they call it a jufuf, she's dry. The blood stopped. And we always go into a day, I call it, it's not fiqh, it's called the day of doubt. You know the day of doubt? Yawm al-shak. I'm done, I'm not done. Maybe, maybe not. You know what? Usually you do 2 or 3 ghusl. Right? And then as you know yourself, you know this is the day. So at the end of the period, the spotting is still part of the period. Till you see, either you're dry or you see the white discharge. What about the spotting in the middle? We call it in medicine breakthrough bleeding. You finished your period, 5 days later, there is a bleeding. Spotting, what do? Usually, first thing is, when did you finish your period? How many days you have to be clean? Did you see that why I told you keep remembering this? You apply that one. So if I finished a period 5 days ago, this is not a period, even if I am flowing and bleeding, because I just finished. Did you get that? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Simple. Now before spotting is not, unless it's flow. After spotting it is, till it's dry or I see. In between, if it is less than 15 days, it's not my period. What if you are performing tawaf at Hajj and halfway through tawaf, you got your period? Ya Allah, is this a true scenario? What a test. How did you know it's your period? You're in the tawaf. I'm just kidding. Okay. This is a tough one, which is true. You went back to the hotel and you find out that you had a bleeding. Alhamdulillah, there is a way out of this. No, really. Because this applies the same way. Think of it this way, you will know the answer. So you are in the masjid. You left home and you were clean. And then in the middle of the salah, you felt something. Can this something be bleeding or not? Or you didn't feel anything. This is actually even better. You didn't feel anything. You went home and then you found that there is blood or there is a najasa. Please forgive me, right? Is that salah I did valid or not? Don't answer me because I'll explain this. This is beauty. The answer is your salah is valid because you entered the act of the worship and you're clean, right? And you're not sure when this happened. It could have happened after. That's why I was telling you, how did you know? Because could be we women feel and turn to be just a natural discharge. But if you were, I don't know that. I have to talk to this lady in private because to know how it is. But in general, if for sure, whatever, you know this is blood, then of course your tawaf is not valid. Then it will be applied the same ruling we said originally. Can you wait and you can till you are done and then you will do your tawaf again, or you are not, then you will do it the last day before you leave. If a woman sees that she got her period while making wudu for Maghrib, after breaking her fast, does she make up that day? Good question. Listen to the question. Listen to the question very carefully. The question reads the following. If the woman sees that she got her period while making wudu for Maghrib after breaking her fast, does she have to make up that day? No, because she khalas. The period came after Maghrib. Lucky woman. Right? So that's why I tell you, read. When people ask you, don't say, if you see, scholars rarely tells you yes or no right away. They always ask you more because they really need to know. This is in Arabic, so I have to translate. I want to ask about something that comes every week, every month when the period comes. We talked about this. First comes out as a, no, actually, let me read this. Because first comes as a brown. Day 1 is a brown. Day 2 and 3, nothing. Then 4th day comes blood. Then day 5, I am done. Jazakillahu khair. You reminded me of an issue. And I subhanAllah, I told myself, keep the slide. Looked like I removed it. This is very common scenario. It can be in many ways. Day 1 and day 2, bleeding. Bleeding period, fulfill the description. Day 3, nothing. Day 4, nothing. Day 5, again, period. What do you do with these 2 days? Very common, especially in after delivery. After delivery, what do you do? So most of the scholars tells you, you regard all this as a period. The day of the clean. There's one school of thought. I had the slide. For some reason, I think we missed it. There was a slide about after delivery. After delivery, let's make it very quickly because that's something also you have to learn. If you miscarry, the question is, always comes up, the blood when I miscarried, is that hayd? Is this is nifas or this is abnormal bleeding? I'm sorry? That's nifas. She's wrong. It depends. It depends how far you're pregnant. And it depends, did we see a baby or we did not see a baby? Mukhallaq or غير mukhallaq. That's very important. So if you are 4 months pregnant and you have a molar pregnancy, then this is, the bleeding afterward is not a nifas because there was no baby. And if I was 8 weeks pregnant, miscarried, right? And I remember this was really nice. I did a DNC to a patient, and the first thing the husband asked me when I left the OR, telling him everything is fine, and he said, "Did you see a baby? Was this nifas?" I loved the question, because that's a man worried about his wife's deen. You know what I'm saying? So I told him everything is fine. Alhamdulillah, she's awake. He said, "Did you see a baby?" So if by ultrasound you saw head, ear, hands, legs, and this is not a live pregnancy, 8 weeks, you went for a DNC or the baby came out, that's nifas, because you saw mukhallaq. If there was no baby no clear distinction of a human creation, that's not nifas. Nifas applies the same rulings as hayd. Minimum nifas, there is no minimum. Longest nifas, they differ actually. Commonest is 40, but there is 60 and there is 70. I think Imam Shafi'i is 60 or 40, 60. So 40, the two school of thoughts, 40, Imam Shafi'i is 60, and there's one is 70. But everything in nifas is the same. So if the blood stops and then comes back and stops and comes back, most of the scholars tells you all of this regarded as hayd. And that will be easier for you. Jazakallah khair. She made us remember things. What is the longest absence of bleeding during menstruation that is considered part of the menstruation is if blood is seen later? Good question. So 5 days of bleeding and then nothing. And 10 days later come another bleeding. My answer, number one, what is your period? What's your ada? What's your habit? Remember what you said, regular. But if it is 10 days, because we said the maximum time, the maximum duration of the period is how many days we said? 15 or 10 if you are Hanafi. So if you see blood and then nothing, and after 10 days you see blood, if you're a Hanafi, that's not period. Did you get it? And if you see the blood after 15 days, that's not a period, because you have to have at least 15 days. The tuhur you counted from when you are clean. When you are clean, the tuhur, the days of menstruation from the first day. A tuhur when you are clean, when you finished, let's assume, and I always recommend you, actually these days, walillah alhamd, there is eye period. You know the eye period? It's an app. I always tell my patients when they have abnormal bleeding, I said, download this period, this app, or any app or a calendar that you record the days you're bleeding, the days you're spotting, how many days you're clean, and bring it to me. Then I can look at it and see. Because if you will depend on your memory, it's going to be tougher. So record it through your phone, on your calendar, doesn't matter, but record it. So the longest absence of bleeding during menstruation, that is considered part of menstruation. It depends on what's the longest you go by. I hope I answered. Yes? You're not answering me, so I'm assuming yes. How can we, very good question also. Alhamdulillah, wallah, you're very nice, mashallah. How can we deal with changing number of bleeding days that happens with aging? Which is true. As we grow older, especially after 35, the pattern of the cycle changes. That's very well known. Sometimes gets longer. So scholar says she adds 3 days. You put an IUD, and uterine device, and the bleeding usually gets longer. This is what I always counsel the patients. I was like, if you're putting an IUD, it's going to be heavier and longer, or heavier or longer. So the scholar says she adds al-mu'tada, they call her, the one who normally knows her period, and changed for a reason, she adds 3 days. That's what the scholars tells you. Some have said that ladies may touch a mushaf that has some tafsir on the sides of the page because it is only Quranic words. Is that true? Absolutely true. Scholars tells you Quran definition is the Quran. That the page has, most of it is Quran. Maybe little bit words on the side with the meanings. But if it's a tafsir, like you look at the tafsir books, where most of the page, the Quran part is much smaller than the tafsir, that's not a Quran, you can touch it. That's what the sister was just saying. So the Quran, by definition, it has to be the page has the Quran. If I am a Shafi'i and I still bleed at the age of 50 plus, is still menstruation correct? Again, if you follow the Shafi'i rules in everything, then you can regard it not a menstruation. But you can follow if it looks like period, smells like period. Where is Michelle? Yeah, the smell. SubhanAllah, I think there was slides missing here because I had the slides about abnormal bleeding. How do you differentiate between normal blood, menstrual blood, and abnormal bleeding? and the following points. The abnormal bleeding, clots. The menstrual blood, when it comes out from the woman, does not clot, not when it is inside. Smell, the menstrual blood has a special smell because of what it has in it. So smell and the color. Again, the menstrual blood is darker. The abnormal bleeding is lighter. So if I'm a Shafi'i and I still bleed at the age of 50, is it still menstruation? Correct. If it follows the menstruation, it is your ada and you see it in ada and you want to choose it as a menstruation because you think this menstruation, that's fine. If you are a strict Shafi'i and you follow everything in a Shafi'i school, then you need to follow the Shafi'i school. If a girl who has not gotten her period and has brown discharge, then minimal bleeding, is this a spotting or menstruation? Is it a flow? Don't forget that. The word is flow. If it is a flow and it's a brown, it's a period. This happens at the extreme age also, when you're going through menopause. Some women, the bleeding doesn't stop right just like that. Goes through a period where no real bleeding, no real blood, but actually discharge, brown, flow. Flow is a menstruation. Remember, what's the colors of the menstrual blood? What did we say? Black, red, brown. So yes, absolutely you can. Does the bleeding or the brown discharge that comes while you are taking birth control pills, Jazakillahu khair, you're reminding me of all the slides I'm putting here. Does the bleeding or the brown discharge that comes while you are taking birth control pills classify as menstrual bleeding? What is the answer? Yes, if it's flowing. If it's a flow, absolutely, because it's the same mechanism. The birth control tablets has the same hormones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in our body. And when you stop taking the pills is when the body pulls away the hormones. SubhanAllah. This is how they came up with the idea. They studied the human body, the woman body during menstruation, and they measured the hormones. That's how they found that the hormones goes up and down, change. They came up with the birth control tablets. Because sometimes you take some birth control tablets and you see only spots. It becomes very light, the period. So if no flow, it's not a period. During period span, say for example 7 days for me, can we have a relationship when the bleeding, very good question. Can we have a relationship at day 6 when the blood stops? Exactly. Actually, not only حتى يطهر, فإذا تطهرنا. This is in the ayah. It has to stop and you have to have your ghusl. Because that's in the ayah. Allah said, يسألونك عن المحيض. Memorize this ayah, ladies. This is our deen. And it's very clear. يسألونك عن المحيض. They ask you about menstruation. Tell them, meaning Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, tell them, whoever is asking, يسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذن. Tell them it's discomfort, pain. فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض. Stay away from the woman, meaning marital relation, during menstruation. حتى يطهرن. Till the bleeding stops. This is the beauty of the Arabic language. One word has more than one meaning. فإذا تطهرن. When they take the shower. فآتوهن من حيث أمركم الله. Then you resume the marital relation. جزاكم الله خير. Very good question. How about reciting Ayatul Kursi, Al-Falaq, An-Nas, after Fajr and Maghrib? I think I answered this question. I told you it's a part of Adhkar, because it's part of Adhkar. I was on birth control for, okay, just tell me when do we stop, yani, before Tahajjud or after Tahajjud? It's 9:40, you're going to go home. I have a class at 7 a.m. and then I'm coming and teaching you at 11:30. So we will do, what, 5 more? Huh? 5 more minutes and we'll conclude. And may Allah reward you all for being so patient. So I was on birth control, no, here, how about, we said this. I was on birth control for several years and finally stopped it this summer. My cycle still is not normal. I have one full day. I have one full 7-day cycle in the beginning of the month and 7 full 7-day cycle at the middle what can I do? That's a very good question. The usual scenario, woman comes to me and says, I have 2 periods in the month. 2 periods in the month. Right? So this is the answer. This is how I say. First thing I do, I get my calendar out with her. This is in the office. And I say, okay, tell me, when did it start? So let's assume January 1st. We are in January. So she said, I got my period January 1st. Bleeding, don't talk about spotting. January. When did it end? 7th. Perfect. And I said, when did you start praying? On the 8th, I'm praying. Alhamdulillah. When did you get your period, the bleeding again? And she says, on the 22nd of January. So how many days is the cycle here? And how many days she's clean? Do the math. Did you see the point? So she was clean on day 8th. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 14 days. So day 20, the first day of that bleeding is not a cycle. The second day of the bleeding is a cycle because it's more than 15 days. Did you get the answer? Apply this. Write it down. أقل مدة الطهر, and subhanallah in medicine. This is why it's amazing. This, when I was learning this, I was like, La ilaha illallah. Because period in medicine is every 21 days is the average. And they calculate it from day 1 to day 1. From the first day of bleeding to the first day of bleeding. Clear? I'm not hearing an answer, so I'm assuming yes. What if you do not have a regular flow on a regular schedule? When get a period? I didn't get the question. The hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam applies to you. So if you don't know your period, let's assume this is a very common scenario. Pregnant, breastfeeding, pregnant, breastfeeding, pregnant, breastfeeding, right? So how many? 3, this is 9 years. No period. Completely forgot. Good luck if you're gonna remember. Let alone with 3 children now. And the children are like what now? 3, 2, 1. Anything left from your brain even to remember, right? So she doesn't remember. So that's what we call it. يعني غير مميزة, she cannot remember it. Or this is a young girl, she just got her period. What do? So what he told her in the hadith, if you remember, 7 of it is your period, and the rest is not your period, because that's the average. I'm sorry? PCOS, it's the polycystic disease of the ovary. It messes the period. They miss it 2 or 3 months, and it comes very heavy. They bleed for maybe a month or 2, so it's very irregular. But for the irregular bleeding, follow the minimum and the max. This is how it helps you. The minimum, the maximum, the minimum days of purity in a month. Don't forget the 15 days. And the flow, then put it on the calendar and calculate it. Inshallah, it will be easy. Last question. If you think period has ended, and do ghusl, but then see a faint brown, very reality question, very real question. Then you see a brown discharge. It's still part of the period? Do I need to make a ghusl again? Huh? Yalla ya muftis, ya muftiyat. One thing, always remember, inshallah Allah will teach you all, don't answer right away. There is a question I have to ask this woman. What question I have to ask her? I'm sorry? No, the question, let me read it again. Yeah, let's make this as an exercise and we will finish here. Right? I didn't give you quizzes. I should. طيب. Actually, in our course, at the end of the course, we had a full exam. It was not obligatory. It was voluntary. We had I think 7 or 8 ladies said, I want to take the exam. And I gave them scenarios. So basically, I'm sorry, yes? Exactly. So this is the question. If you think period has ended and do ghusl, but then see a faint brown, is still part of the menstruation, do I need to make a ghusl? Number 1, how long is your period? What is your norm? That's why it's called the aada. What's your norm? Regular. Do you normally, at the day 7, end, how do you know you're done? Are you a woman who see the white discharge, or you're a woman who the bleeding stops? If the woman see blood, white discharge, and she saw the white discharge, this is abnormal. This is not period. If she's normally by clean completely, she took a ghusl, and then 2 hours later she saw a discharge, that's still part of her period. Did you see? You really have to look. There is no like a one answer fits all, especially in menstruation. Very rarely. One rule fits all. Every woman is individual. Ask, look at your period. This is why for the young girls, when she starts having her period, when she first has a bleeding, if she was 7 years of age, they say wait for the next month and the next month, 3 months. After 3 months, she will have her cycle, meaning how her cycle will be. So always, when you have a question, ask, take more information. Don't answer people. I'm talking about yourself. Don't give fatwas, please don't. Because if you told her pray, I want you to think this way, and this is how I will end. If you told her this is your period, that means she's not gonna pray. She didn't pray, and this was not a period. What was the sequence of your answer? And if you told her it's not a period, go ahead and fast. Go ahead and fast. Go ahead and pray. And this was a period. What's the sequence? Did you get the point? This is not a recipe or a simple. This is ibadah of Allah, the obligation. So when you answer, you really have to ala bayyinah, ala basira, knowledge, you know. And the best, safest way, say, I don't know. Alhamdulillah, like for you, you have an imam, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Right? You can ask, and you have the sister here, she can always give you answers on the Shafi'i school of thought. But don't give it haphazard, let alone on text messages. You're like going to bed and text message, hey, do you think this is my period? Oh yeah, it's your period. Please don't do that. Okay. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه تسليما كثيرا. May Allah reward you. You are amazing, all of you. May Allah reward everybody. May Allah reward the Imam who gave us the room. May Allah reward the Masjid and the amazing ladies you have on the board and in the planning committee. So be grateful to the ni'mat Allah gave you.
Assalamu alaikum, jazakumullah khair. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. we will move the program inshallah to the main musalla to accommodate large numbers. We need to courteously leave no later than 1 in order to accommodate the salah, and then we'll come back at 2. So the 2 first lectures will be here in the main musalla, and inshallah the south conference room will be for the babysitting. So there will be babysitting. Make sure you bring your spouses with you. It's a co-education program. So it's open for sisters and brothers, inshallah. The last talk, which is 4 to 5:30, is for Arabic speakers. It will be delivered in Arabic language. So be aware of that, inshallah. And it depends on the number of audience. It will either be in the main musalla or in the south conference room. We look forward to seeing all the faces and more tomorrow, inshallah. Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum.